OK, next, corporate social responsibility. Now, there's a fad for CSR, but I would argue that we have been a responsible business because of everything we've talked about for the last hour and a half forever. And as I've said about the fair trade piece, we have to respond to that. So I'm not interested in doing window dressing to come high up those rankings. I'm interested in our customers thinking this is a business that's doing the right thing by its suppliers, by its partners, and by its customers. And I genuinely believe that our success at the moment is because our customers trust us to be doing all of those things. You can call it CSR if you want. I call it building trust, which is at the bedrock of our organisation. How do we deal with conflict? Well, the glib answer is we don't have any. Of course that isn't true. But what I hope comes out is by being utterly robust and honest with people. Because in the organisation, you can't have it based on trust, as I've said, and shared interests if you're not completely straightforward with people. And our partners see straight through that if you are.
Mr. Blair is looking for a job to...
And I wouldn't touch him with a barge pole.
1 second. Just two last questions. Two very last questions.
I'd
Someone who hasn't answered.
There was a gentleman down here with the glasses, yes?
One, and number two. Have you not asked before?
No, he hasn't.
OK. One.
Yeah. It's 13%. Now, compared to the retail industry, which is about 50%, that is stunning. And that is why, when you walk into John Lewis Oxford Street, you are served by someone who actually knows how the washing machine will work. And that ultimately is, back to your point, that is why we are achieving a better result from our customers where we choose to, because we're actually getting that. Now, the other stats around it, 13% is slightly deceptive, because in that, in any retail organisation, you've got lots of people who keep churning the students who we all employ. Key thing about John Lewis is once you've been there for 3 years, you can never get out. So our turnover for people who've been there over 3 years is 3%, and that is unheard of in a retailer. And just one last point on this, because it's a very important question where bits come together in our model. What we still do is two things that just make us bonkers from an HR point of view. We still reward people who've got over 3 years' service with a final salary, non-contributory pension scheme, which is still open to new members. There is no other retailer in the UK left doing that. Everyone says you're bonkers, you can't do it. We are doing it. It's in our financial returns. And then the second thing that we do is after 25 years' service, you get a 6-month sabbatical, whatever your job, whatever level, paid for by the company. So we are definitely, and this is very sort of anti-zeitgeist, we are definitely rewarding long service because we believe that we want people to be part of this model as a way of life forever. And that's why, although we have to take some tough decisions over jobs that change, we go out of our way to make sure we redeploy people in the business.
Thank you. And last question, make it a good one. Thank you.
Okay, Luke Black, so London. So in this kind of internal parliament, internal democracy model, I wanted to ask you kind of how meaningful this was. So you talk about it being represented in each state of store manager who acts on behalf of the employees going to this sort of central board of practice and making these decisions. I mean, how possible is it for, say, you sort of individual floor worker to actually have an influence on these decisions? Because if it was a real democracy, then you might have seen some kind of, I suppose, upheavals led from below throughout your history. And that probably hasn't happened. So I'm not wondering if the people sort of on the shop floors are rather sort of generally falling behind the general tone and the general ambience of the company, rather than it genuinely being internally democratic and being amenable to revolutions from below, as it were.
Yeah, okay. It is a corker of a last question, so thank you. The answer's in two parts. The first is to say that shop floor workers can move right through to the senior level in the organisation. So on our board, we have had what we call non-management partners, and find me any other company in the UK where someone could aspire to that. So it is genuinely socially mobile if someone is felt to have that ability. Second thing to say, though, is that there have been movements in the past. As I said at the beginning, the world has not always been rosy in the John Lewis Waitrose garden, and actually it requires outstanding leadership to make sure it remains rosy. And back in the late 90s, when we were not trading particularly well, where the model was seen as irrelevant, there was a shop floor push to demutualise the organisation. And the then board, well before my time, was pretty terrified of that. So the model does actually allow that to come out if it wants. But perhaps the most telling point to conclude on is back to the complacency point. Just because it's coming out now doesn't mean the model couldn't allow it. Maybe this is indulgent on my part, but perhaps it could mean that actually the organisation is being reasonably led at the moment. What I'm very clear on is if we were to lose our commercial edge, to your point, then there would be internal dissent, and our partners would say, we're not getting our fair share of return for my input here. So the model, I think, would allow that to come out, and we've constantly got to refresh it to make sure that doesn't become the outcome.
Thank you. I'm sorry we could go on for another hour, but we just haven't got the time. Do apologise. I would just like to thank you all for coming. I think we've had a fascinating discussion here in the Bow Group, where we're used to listening to Conservative politicians mainly come and speak and give the political perspective, but we don't perhaps too often we don't get a chance to speak and question and hear people on the front line who actually are living and breathing what it's like in the world of business and beyond. And Andy is the epitome of that. It's been a delight to have someone from such a senior position from John Lewis PLC, which is a household name in British retail, and I'm delighted that he was able to join us today. I'd like to hand over to Craig Rimmer, who's going to say a few words of thanks.
Thank you. I was just going to say exactly the same in that respect, and thank Andy Street for his speech today and the questions that he's fielded. He has shown us how the employee partnership model at John Lewis could actually be utilised to have a broader concept of civic entrepreneurship, as in his own words, and how this could actually be used to look at areas of public service in terms of the NHS and possibly even Transport for London, and see what we can do in terms of not just engaging with employees, but also in terms of getting extra efficiency and in terms of making sure that we're managing disputes with Labour as well, and, as I say, engaging with people. So thank you very much to Andy Street. So if you could all put your hands together for Andy, please. And second to that, I'd just also like to thank Mr. Qureshi and the people at Stockwell Green as well for their sponsorship and their partnership with the Bow Group on this and all the work that they've done. I think you've contributed a lot to the debate as well, and it's quite fitting that you are here and partnering this meeting today. Thank you very much. So if you could all put your hands together.
This is probably breaking every rule in the book, but I wanted to have the last word, and it's simply to say there's no point in this evening if what I've talked about doesn't actually have some impact in how you are lobbying for change in your party. So I hope what has happened tonight is I might have inspired you to go and do that, and looking at the previous record of the Bow Group on this, I really feel it was an event worth doing so that you'll go forward and do exactly that lobbying. So thank you.
Thank you. And if I could just say a couple of household notices. Our next event is going to be at the Conservative Party conference in Birmingham, Sunday the 3rd of October, our conference reception with Ken Clarke, Secretary of State for Justice, and that's at 9:30, Hall 6 of the ICC. So for those of you who are going to conference, please do come along. And I believe, Andy, you'll be at the party conference as well.
We are doing a fringe event on the Monday, but it's actually not on this. It's actually on the role of retail in urban regeneration, and it's a critical story, particularly as the government's looking at planning issues, and there's a crisis over where employment is going to come, and as we all know, retail is the biggest employer in the country. So Monday, lunchtime, nibbles provided, with the BRC, if you can bear hearing me again.
And just to let you know that next month we have a piece of research coming out on the issue of doorstep milk delivery in association with Dairy UK, and that'll be winging its way into your inboxes in due course. So something a bit different there. But John Lewis is never knowingly undersold, and I think Andy has put that into practice tonight as well. So thank you to Andy. Thank you to Andy.